is. I don't know what my neighbours are doing, but it sounds as though they're moving all the furniture in their house all at one go. And I don't know, they've been doing it pretty much every evening about this time, and I was kind of hoping that they'd finished doing whatever moving they were doing, but sisters and parents. At that moment, a powerful link with my past was restored. Hard work pays off. Closer inspection of the licensed buildings, enquiry documents at the local record office showed Thomas and Margaret had improved the premises at a large expense. As a result, they had been able to extend the tenancy beyond the annual basis on a certain lease with George Asherton Smith of Fainall Park, the pub's owners. Thomas had continued to work part-time at the Llanberis slate quarries, while his wife and family ran the pub, confirming the census descriptions of their occupations. Thomas had worked with his father and 3 older brothers at the slate quarry, just along the road from their home, since he was aged 9 or possibly even younger. He must have known the industry well and seen many of the 250 ships involved in the export of slate, as well as the 3,000 coasting and foreign vessels clear the port at Carnarvon every year. Cholera strikes. Let's have some more tea. From the licensed buildings enquiry documents, I knew that Thomas and Margaret had taken up residence in the pub just a few months after the outbreak of cholera in the town. An internet search revealed that the first cases of the disease in Carnarvon occurred in October 1866. By Christmas of that year, 60 of the 471 people affected had died. A Dr. Seaton, sent from London by the medical department of the Privy Council, commented that he had never in all his experience witnessed anything so bad as the undrained portions of the town, which were indescribably abominable sinks of disease. He analysed the spread of the disease and suspected that it was present in the drinking water. On his suggestion, warning notices were posted advising inhabitants not to drink water that had not been boiled. His report helped the mayor to push through the installation of the new water system and clearance of the worst slums, but it must have been a long wait for water that people could trust. For most people, the alternative to boiling water was to return to the medieval practice of drinking beer. Strong liquor was also believed to be a preventative against cholera, so trade at the pub must have boomed. The slate industry and port had doubled the town's population too. Sarah was the barmaid. 4 other adult daughters lived at the pub, as well as my grandfather Lewis William, aged 12. 10 years later, on the 1901 census, Thomas was listed as a retired slate quarryman, now a publican, working at home on his own account. Sarah had left, but his wife and 3 of his daughters remained. My grandfather Lewis had gone to sea, and 4 years later married. Another Mariners' daughter in the church at Carnarvon, but this was not my grandmother. How it came about that my oldest auntie was born in Cardiff 6 years later, with Lewis William clearly the father, is yet another story that I have just started to look into, with the help of the Welsh Mariners Index and the National Maritime Museum. Medieval surprise. But the good old Vane Alarms had yet another story to tell. While researching the pub, I came across details of a fascinating story that saw a last-ditch attempt to save the building from destruction. By the 1990s, this Grade 2 listed building had become unsightly, and the decision had been made to demolish it. However, Save Britain's Heritage stepped in, feeling that the building should be restored, setting an example for Welsh conservation projects. But the wheels of officialdom move very slowly, and Save was forced to seek a High Court injunction on New Year's Eve 1994 to stop the Borough Council proceeding with this is actually more crinkly as it goes along, this magazine. Images from the past. Family business, medieval barbers. Oh, look at him. Burbridge haircutting saloon, 71 Newgate Street. Sorry. Get your haircut. Barbers, scissors and scalpels. I actually think this is more of an interesting edition of this magazine than that one that I've just looked through. Finding your Berkshire ancestors. Data CDs. CDs seems to be also old-fashioned these days. Books and accessories. Okay, so I think I'm gonna leave it there, but I'm gonna put this magazine to one side, and I think we'll definitely come back to it because there's a couple of things. Oh, it's a crossword. A couple of things I'd like to read in here. Oh, look at this one. Skeleton in the cupboard, attempted murder. Dum dum dum. Okay, so I